Gosh, there's a lot happening.
There is.
There's a lot in the pipeline
going on,
which is great. It's a World Cup.
Going to be
just
busy,
around the
aren't we?
corner.
Can't wait for it.
Cannot wait. I'm ready, like, as in fully loaded, whatever that means, ready to go.
I've got another holiday before then, so I'll be fully
Enjoy
loaded.
it. No, you should. Take your time and
Team
breathe.
wasn't fully loaded. England.
No, we weren't. We had our third team out, and we were very, very poor down in Wales.
Should I give my snapshot?
Yeah, you go,
Of
James.
it? Because I know you'll get deep into the weeds of abusing Steve Borthwick. I'm joking.
I got told I need to be more positive.
Yes.
I had to be positive after that.
It was event last week, but it's fine. And I thought we would have seen a spike in energy and aggression from England, as in they're all listening to the podcast in the lead up to that, but there wasn't. You're right. A couple of things from the game that I picked up. Wales. Let's start on them. A team I know where Jim says, now there's folk, this is the time where they're not going to deliver. They were very good, very physical, great game plan. Defensively, very good. I thought they were hard done by at the scrum. Lewis Rees-Zammit.
in the first half.
In the first half, I thought they were poorly done in the scrum, and Nick Berry had a tough time dealing with that. A lot of the calls were coming in from the touches. Anyway, this is me being negative.
Yeah.
Listen to me. I'm just saying Wales were actually better than the scoreline said, in my opinion. The gulf between the two teams was fairly worrying if you're an England fan, albeit they did have a lot of players missing, where Wales probably weren't far away from being fully loaded.
Yeah.
There'll be a few players coming in, but big fan of Sam Costello at 10 for Wales. Great that he's playing now. I remember doing the Leicester Tigers Academy. He was there with Jack Van Poorfleet, Freddie Stewart, George Martin, and everyone was talking about Sam Costello. Didn't really see him, went to the Scarlets. I know Sam was talking about him on comms, but apart from a few high balls, it looked like it was a tough day for everyone under the high ball. But he was good. I thought Sam Costello was very good. I thought both the centres were brilliant. Lewis Rees-Zammit, you referenced the size of the squads. Gareth Davies, the size and the conditioning, which you always expect with a Welsh team.
Gat said it.
Was there. They looked, not only did they look great on Instagram, from what we've seen,
True.
as in on the pitch, and I'll come on to Scotland as well, from a conditioning and visually aesthetic point of view, and they had to do a lot of defending, Wales did. I thought they looked brilliant.
Yeah.
And then we can talk about the back row, the balance of the back row with Jack Morgan.
How good.
He was brilliant. Again, we spoke about him, referenced him a few times.
Wainwright, Tash.
Wainwright was better,
Yeah.
just in my opinion. And look, Wainwright for me, Aaron Wainwright, Gats has mentioned him before, and he kind of went off the boil a little bit, both these lads.
Well, Pivac wasn't a fan of his.
He wasn't a fan of Wainwright, so maybe he might be a player that needs that kind of, mate, you're a good player. He's a test match animal.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a week in, week out player, and there's nothing wrong with that. Every time I've seen him play test match,
Animal.
Brilliant. He was a standout performer at the weekend.
And
go
on him, not only does he look like a throwback to the 70s, 80s Welsh rugby
Tash.
player, he looks like a 80s, 90s porn star as well. With the Tash looks amazing.
Yeah, Tashes are back in now.
Yeah.
This is.
Shall I have a go?
I'm
Might have a
slowly growing mine out, but he was brilliant. David Jenkins, 20
Yeah.
years old. He's 20.
Yeah.
So Chinza in the back row. Loved the.
Quiet Chunza.
He was quiet.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
No,
because
yeah. Jack Morgan and Wainwright were out of this world.
Brilliant.
So maybe he wasn't quiet, but they just overshadowed him because of how good they were.
Yeah. The two Ronda boys with the Polish twang. I think it's Polish twang.
Yes.
It is. Again, where are the next props that are coming through? And I mentioned the scrum.
I felt sorry for him.
I felt sorry for them as well, because they were the wrong calls at scrum time that they were getting pinged for. I know Nick Berry balanced it out in the second half, but this is all about Wales. I was very impressed, really impressed with how they played, and you think that Dan Bigger came on as well with the experience that they've got. Gats knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Again, so regardless of where Wales have been and what I think, or when you actually look at that game and physically how conditioned they look, this isn't me saying they're going to go and win the World Cup.
They're going to win it.
But
they're going to win it.
They have a bit of a 2011 feel to them, that squad.
I love the way. Hold on, boys. It's one warm-up game.
But that's what we can base it on.
Oh, no, yeah.
That's
you're
all
right.
we're looking at.
Two things, though, on it. So you mentioned Gats, and two things that Gats said. Firstly, so he's come over after the game with Lee Halfpenny, and we're doing some interviews, and obviously it was Halfpenny's 100th cap. Massive shout out to him. Brought his kids over for the interview as well. Gats comes over, said hello to him, shake his hand. It's like, what's that fucking clown Hamilton on about?
No, he didn't.
I promise you. He's like, what's Jim always on about with shit? I'm like, oh, well, you know. At some point, he might be right, Gats. And maybe he was in the Six Nations.
Did he say that?
Yeah. We'll get him on. I think we're going to get Gats on the pod.
I'm a massive fan of Gats.
Yeah, we're going to get Gats on the pod.
I'm a big fan of Gats.
Maybe the next couple of weeks, I want to get Gats on. We shook hands and, you know, all good. And then the other thing he said, and you mentioned it there, about their fitness. I said off air, I was like, Gats, half time. I thought Wales looked fucked just before half time because England had a lot of possession. And they were going ahead in the scrum, getting the scrum penalties. I said, mate, what did you say at half-time and do at half-time? Because you need a pay rise. Because what came out in the second half, whereas Borthwick, the opposite happened. We were shocking in the second half. And we went backwards. And he goes, mate, how fit are we? We look fitter. We're way fitter than that England team. And that's all he was talking about, fitness.
And that's exactly how it looked. So I'll just finish off my kind of one line because you were.
I said, Gats, you're talking to the right man about fitness there.
Gats, do you know when I train, I actually train in black and not blue?
Here's my protein bar.
But with England, it was such an un-England performance under that coaching setup. And Goody was talking about it, the way that they play, not engaging with the public, like aesthetically doesn't look great. The line out was off, the handling errors, and this is why Joe Thocken-Singer's not in the squad. Under the high ball, their kicking game, whether or not it was chasing, whether or not it was gathering, was so far off that, yes, there'll be a reaction. And we saw with Scotland in their game against Italy, where they had 13, 14 handling errors, and it was just such a shit game.
It was the same thing, isn't it? England had, I think, 20 or 21 unforced errors, handling errors, knock-ons, etc., which is unacceptable at that level.
Yeah. But that's a
hell of a lot.
That's a lot. Like, as in from Scotland, like that was a lot as well. Then you see England at the weekend, but there was that. The line out didn't function under Borthwick, and everyone could be like the hookers. It wasn't. I would again not that I analysed it with a fine tooth comb, but it was the drill. Everything was just slow, pedestrian, and the first game. And you know what?
I felt sorry for Theo Dan because people would just go, "Oh, new hooker comes on, it's his fault."
Yeah, I know. Well, he dropped the ball, and there was a free kick on the first scrum that he came at. Nothing just seemed to work for them at all. And you know what? Like the squad's out, and we're going to talk about that. But there was one shot for a few players, and you don't want to go too hard on them. I'm not going to go too hard on them because you think of the amount of training and prep they've put in to try and make the World Cup squad. But Joe Thocken-Singer had one shot, and they tried to use him off the wing, like bringing him in short size, and he's just getting banged for fun. Yeah, there was a couple of big carries from him, but yeah, they just collectively they were very poor, unfortunately.
And that's true. And people have said, look, what have they been doing for 8 weeks? Because if Gats says they're not fit enough, well, he didn't say they're not fit enough, but he said we completely monstered them on the fitness. So, and then we couldn't catch or pass. 23 turnovers it is, I'm reliably told.
23?
Yeah, 19 handling errors. But what I will say is that was, and I looked at the team last week when it came out, I was like, quite excited about that team. I looked at the Wales team, and the Wales team, as Jim said before, isn't far off, I don't think, their best team. Yeah, there's a lot of players coming. You look at the back line, so Lewis Rees-Zammit, you could probably swap in Liam Williams for Lee Halfpenny, maybe. Bigger starts at 10, but the outside backs, Lewis Rees-Zammit, the centres, George North.
He would look good as well, which I thought he was past it.
Yeah, really
obviously
good.
Not.
Llewellyn.
Good on the scrum too.
Yeah, really good. Llewellyn, big boy.
Grady, when he came on, was brilliant.
Mason Grady, big lad. There's some monsters coming out of Wales now, which is Warren ball again. But England, from that starting team, Genji would probably be in our best 15. Ludlam played all the Six Nations games, so he played well. And he played very well. And then Freddie Stewart at fullback. The rest of them, without saying second, third choice, but that's where it was. And that's where the selection was, giving players opportunities. Joe Marchant, I personally think his performance, and I talked him up during comms, he was, you say Ludlam was our best player. Him and Joe Marchant and Ludlam were our best two players, I think. And I potentially think that Joe Marchant played himself onto the Eurostar or the plane. However they're getting there, if they might swim the channel, who knows? After that performance, he might make them do extra fitness, we're going to get better. But, hey, he speaks the truth, Borthers, because it's part of the information gathering around training and everything that we're doing. but we want to build, so we want to get better week on week. Can't get any worse, Borthwick. So he's definitely doing his job this week, and we're going to be better. And we'll have a lot of our frontliners. You think about the names that weren't in that squad, and yeah, it's doom and gloom because it was really underwhelming, the England performance. There didn't seem to be desire, didn't seem to be like that emotional attachment of this is a fucking test match against Wales. Give everything.
It was like a pre-season game.
Did you say it is doom and gloom?
No, well, you look at social media and amongst the fans, there's a lot of doom and gloom out there around the performance because it was poor, very, very poor. But the reality is, a lot of second and third choice players, some of those players, a fair few of them haven't made the plane or the Eurostar. And we're going to get better week on week, which we will this week. And then you look at the list of players that were sat in the stand or at home or on the golf course, and you've got Farrell, you've got Jamie George, you've got Itoje, you've got Billy Vunipola, you've got Manu Tuolangi, Anthony Watson. There's only really two or three players in that starting team at the weekend that would make our top 15. And credit, this is not sort of how bad are England. Credit to Wales. Like, I listened to the pod back last week and Jim was like, Wales are fucked. And I think genuinely, Jim, that they might use your voice and your words as inspiration. So keep bagging Wales because every time you bag them, they prove you wrong. What do you know?
Nothing.
Come join. We're on a journey, mate. Come join me.
I'm with you. I've said it about Wales, and they deliver every single time. I always go back to the World Cup in 2019, where they went in on half a leg, and then nearly beat South Africa. So
in the semis,
nearly beat South Africa in the semi-finals, and they didn't. No one thought they had a chance at World Cups. They love a semi. We've mentioned that before. Warren Gatland knows what he's doing. From a condition point of view, they look brilliant. They have now got some fantastic players that we knew nothing about. We kind of knew about them because we've gone through the archives of Jack Morgan, Aaron Wainwright, mentioned Daffy Jenkins, 20 years old, Chinza coming through. But you are right. When you look at the players coming back, just think of what England can look like with Manu Tuolangi, who's fit, coming on short lines and getting them over the gain line. But it's the handling errors was the big thing.
And that's the thing. The handling errors and also the issue of the identity of how we're going to play. Because it looked like we were stuck between a rock and a hard place at the weekend. Sometimes we're playing to the edge. And you watch all the games over the weekend. I'm watching Scotland, and you talked the week before how it was an average game against Italy. How exciting was the Scotland-France game? We'll come on to that. Just watching the width that they're putting on. The French young kids, the handling, the width that they're putting on. They
knew where they were going.
Yeah.
So you're right, as in both
and England
Scotland...
lost.
Exactly. Well, even George Martin, who I'm a massive fan of, he's going around the corner off 9, and he's kind of looking confused in what side he's going to go. Like, defensively, there was a few times the players were kind of getting mixed up. And
So it's an identity. And yes, it will improve hugely with a whole bunch of new personnel this weekend who are, without being too harsh, better players. But also, Borthwick, you've got to find an identity of how we're going to attack. And the worrying thing for England, I don't want to go too harsh, but the fundamentals of Steve Borthwick's coaching and how he coaches and sets up a team. 1, line out was poor. 2, scrum, set piece, poor. 3, defence. The basics of the game, and not even worrying about the attack because that comes further down the line. The basics and the hallmarks of a Steve Borthwick coach team and how the fundamentals of how to win an international rugby match, we were pretty bad at the weekend. But I'm an England fan. I'm positive about England. We're going to get to a semi at least. And
it's bloody exciting, Andrew.
Yeah, it is.
So these are pre-season games, if you can call them that, but they're test matches. But think about what's around the corner. Like, it's exciting, isn't it? Like, we're now getting into it. The momentum's gathering for the World Cup. I
was looking at the groups. Oh, it is. I was looking at the groups. And think about the podcast over the weekend. And when I saw Scotland getting absolutely hosed in that first
21-3,
I'm like, I've got some great lines for the pod this week. Don't worry about whether you're going to beat South Africa or Ireland. Just worry about beating Tonga to qualify for the next World Cup. That's what I was going to say. And then egg on my face, without Jim saying it. But I'm sat there now going, well, we've got obviously Argentina first and then Japan second. And you obviously hope to qualify. But imagine losing those two. Then you've got Samoa. How good does Samoa look as well? They're dusting boys. So, a lot of water to go under the bridge. Very exciting times for everyone. Obviously, the squad's been announced now. And Gats and Borthers have done it very differently, haven't they? Gats said he's using these games, he's going to name his squad at the last possible moment. Borthers has gone early. Ironically, they've both been in the job for the same amount of time as head coaches. Borthers has gone early because he wants to get everyone training. Get better week on week.
Just talking about that squad that he's named, Goody, Slade is the obvious one for me, just going straight off the bat.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? He's not in the squad.
Big surprise for me, big shock. And a lot of it is around, I think personally, I was trying to pick a squad last week and I did one for Rugby Pass. And it's 33 people in the squad, right? And I'm looking at it going numbers-wise. You always have more forwards than backs for obvious reasons. And I'm trying to think back to 2019 when we did it. And there was only 31 players. And it was even harder. So 33 players, I'm like, is he going to go 18, 15, or is he going to go 19, 14 forwards to backs? And then you look at flexibility of players and what positions they can cover. And Slady, being really honest, hasn't been at his very, very best. He's not played badly, but he's not been at his very, very best.
Yeah, he got 15 minutes. Was it 15 minutes at the weekend?
Well, I don't think it was judged on that.
No,
I think
wasn't.
that performance, or maybe Marchant, because of how good Marchant was, played himself onto the plane, and because he can cover wing as well, Marchant. And then you're looking at the makeup of the squad. Elliot Daly was injured during the Six Nations. He can cover centre, mainly 13, wing, fullback, goal kicker. And when you look at it, he's got 19 forwards and 14 backs. Maybe the inclusion of Ollie Chesham has meant that because Ollie Chesham's come back from a long-term injury, and I know Borth is a big fan of Ollie Chesham. It sounds mad talking about a second row when you're talking about Henry Slade, but maybe you've had to pick, because you picked Chesham, you picked Ribbons as well, because Chesham hasn't played yet, which means you've got 19 forwards and then 14 backs, which means when you look at players' abilities to play in other positions, you have to take Manu, you have to take Lawrence because of how good they have been for England when they've had the opportunity. And then you're thinking, well, I need enough back three players. Marchant can cover wing and centre. Daly can cover wing, centre, fullback. Slady, realistically, is just a centre, can cover 10, but he said he's going to take 3 10s. So you look at it, is it a real surprise? Yes, because of his stature as a player, but when you're looking at how to pick a squad, and it's the headline one, Henry Slade not in, I can see why he's done it. Whether I agree with it or not, I don't know. But, you're trying to fit 14 backs into a 33-man squad. You need to have flexibility of where you can play, and Elliot Daly brings his strengths more so than Henry Slade can play in different positions. So a bit of a shock for a lot of people because of the headline of Henry Slade not being in it, but when you sort of dive into the squad and the whys and wherefores, then you can see.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then in the forwards, just think about the narrative around Billy Vunipola and how he wasn't in the squad. He was playing unbelievably well. Now he's injured. I don't know if he had a minor surgery. I think he did.
He did in his knee.
And so his training's going to be limited, yet he's been picked ahead of Tom Willis, who didn't really get a shot. I think he's an out-and-out test starter down the road. And Alex Donbrandt, who Goody felt potentially was touch and go to make the squad, but they've gone
called it after the game, didn't they?
But you actually look at the team. You mentioned Ollie Chesham there, hasn't played, coming back from injury. Billy Vunipola as well. Courtney Laws, who can play across the back row. So clearly there's a mindset with Borthers and the coaching team that you can train as hard as you want in pre-season. They've got a way in which they want to play. But it's, he's been pretty ruthless and cutthroat and probably unapologetic about that. But the Billy Vunipola relationship with him and Steve that wasn't good or was fractured or whatever, again, based on rumours, but you think that Borthers has had the emotional intelligence and
he needs the boy, doesn't he?
He needs him.
And Billy played well at the end of the season
to pick him, and we know having a Billy or a Manu, a real point of difference in any team like that when it comes to getting on the front foot is like huge. Gold dust.
And on that, and you talk about front foot, one that surprised me actually, and fair play to Borthers, you talk about who made the biggest impact on the Prem last year, or one of the biggest impacts in getting over the gain line and metres made, carries, all that stuff.
Ben
Earl. I think he's come from nowhere, really, over the last few weeks. And we were all saying last year, how's he not starting for England? How's he not starting for England? Look how good he is for Saracens. He's on the bench a couple of times in the Six Nations, then got bombed out. I'm surprised he's in. not surprised on. I'd have had him in. I wrote my column that I'd have him in, but I'm surprised that Borthwick's picked him because Borthwick didn't seem to be a fan, but he's obviously trained the house down and he is a tackle breaker, isn't he? Which, obviously the way Borthwick plays, a bit of one-out rugby, bit of gain line, bit of power. There's not much finesse to it at the minute. Hopefully that comes, but people that can get their nose through contact and get over that gain line, which is everything at international level, isn't it? Hopefully Ben Earl gets a shot as well. And again, his versatility around, he can play 6, 7 or 8.
And that's the thing, you look at it, right, from an England fan's perspective, if you piece together a team. Right, so you've got Genji or Marler, you've got Jamie George, Jack Walker or Theo. Dan told you, didn't I?
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised about Blamire. I'm surprised
maybe
Jack
played
Walker.
himself out the weekend.
Yeah, I thought he did. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a number. I mean, there are a few. It's hard. I've been there. It's the impossible challenge. You've got Marrow in the second row. George Martin talked him up this year as well. See him as a second row. David Ribbons went off injured at the weekend. Yeah. But you've got Ollie Chesham who can play across the back row, second row. You've got Courtney Laws who can do exactly the same. Marrow can do exactly the same. And then you look at what they've got to choose from in the back row, whether or not you go with a Billy and a Ben Earl and a Jack Willis or a Ludlam who
Curry
did really well. And we're not even mentioning Tonka. So actually look at the team, then you look at the back line with the likes of Manu Marchant, Ollie Lawrence, Freddie Stewart.
We're going to win it.
Henry Arundel, who
England,
is just wheels.
England.
Ooh. But so look what England have got to come back. So yes, they weren't great at the weekend, but you actually look at the nuts and the bolts. So Anthony Watson is one of the best players when fit on the planet.
Yeah.
This is why
we're going to win it, Jim.
Good.
You're backing us.
You're not.
Okay.
But you're going to do all right, I think.
One that I wanted to get in. I remember we went back to our bolters last season, didn't we? Put it on social media. But a man who made his debut at the weekend, Tom Pearson, who was tearing up trees at the back end of last season. I thought he played all right at the weekend, put himself about a bit, but then he got absolutely boomed by Jack Morgan and Wainwright.
Yeah, he did.
Mean, do you reckon that got him off the plane?
I don't think
That's
so.
Horrible
Actually,
I
love
Tom Pearson.
I love Tom Pearson as well.
Yeah.
I think he would, looking now at the makeup of the back row, he would have been touch and go.
Yeah.
But who would you take out of that squad to put Tom Pearson? He's going to have his time, right? He's going to come good. But Lewis Ludlam, I thought, did really well. He's proven Borthers really likes him. So was it between him,
Ben Earl, maybe?
And maybe, I don't know, like Ben Earl? I mean, it's based on before. So I don't know, if
it's about the data, and I collect all the information around training, and that's just one more bit of information from the weekend.
But if Pearson would have ran over Jack Morgan, I don't think that makes a difference. No one's running over the great Jack Morgan, our Jack Morgan, but he'll be back as well. But just think of the players that have missed out for England with him and Willis, just to name two.
Yeah, and the other thing on it, this 33-man squad will not be the 33-man squad that finishes the World Cup. I don't think.
Or look at Scotland.
Yeah. We're playing 3 more warm-up games. There's bound to be a injury in there somewhere. You're playing Samoa in your group at some point. Someone might get Tuolangi'd, but not, because there's not Tuolangi in the Samoa. But you know what I mean. Players like Tom Pearson, devastated for him. I still think Zach Mercer should be in there. I was hoping. I tweeted yesterday. Go on, Borthwick, just do the right thing. Lacklustre at the weekend. Do the right thing and give Zach Mercer a call. Get him in there. Excitement. But no. So there's going to be changes, and there'll be players that will, hopefully Tom Pearson now gets to have a week off, go away to Ibiza, have fun, get loose. You've trained hard. You've made your first international appearance, got your first cap. But I've got a feeling that there'll be 2 or 3 of them that will end up in the squad eventually. Pod.
Rugby pod.